Well, hello there, chums. It is I, Captain Stephen XO, and look at that, you just got a salute there from Sith and Jama. So yeah, let's go and have a quick chat to these. There you go, look, Assistant Sith, almost like Star Wars, and he's turned up in his pajamas. Awesome. Anyway, the other day, well, I said the other day, the other week, just as Origins dropped, IGN put out an interview from Mr. Sean Murray. Now I've got a few excerpts of that I wish to play, and I'm going to be putting them up on the screen in a bit. But just to give you the general gist of how it went, Sean Murray said that, everything was procedurally generated, or kind of was, or is, to a certain extent. However, he also then went on to say, but it's not true prog-gen, it hasn't been for the last 4 years when it comes to variety and diversity, and the actual what we have right now is fairly static. So that was kind of interesting, and he says also Origins is a new start for them, and it's not an end, it's something fundamental. And then we're adding more variety and diversity into the universe, which is freaking ace. Yep, and they also said they've got a nice problem around the community and base creations and things like that they're trying to sort of sort out and merge universes together to help them deliver it. Anyway, I'll put that section up first so you can take a listen to it in Sean's own words, because I've just done a summarization of what he said. That's what I've interpreted it all to say. So here we go. Let's fire it up. XO, if you wouldn't mind, sir. Executamundo.
Yeah, this is our kind of big yearly update, like we did Next and Beyond. This is it. The fundamental thing is that we have this universe that we built like 4 years ago, and we released it, and we said that thing of even we don't know what's out there, but it was true to an extent, right? We didn't know the kind of planets people were going to start up on, and then actually that hasn't been true for the last 4 years for us. We have a ever-evolving game, but that universe has been reasonably static, right? The same terrains and biomes and worlds out there to explore. We've kind of calmed them down, actually. We've removed some of the craziness, if anything. And Origins is kind of, yes, it's another update, but it's kind of a new start for us in some ways. And we kind of wanted to get that across, that this isn't an end. It isn't just, here is an update with some more content in. It's something quite fundamental for us. We're adding more diversity, more variation to that universe, which is something that we haven't really done that much. But also we're adding like literal new planets that are birthing them into the universe, stuff like that. But we have this really nice problem, which is we have this universe that the community kind of owns, right? They've built bases on it, they built, communities, they've gone off and had adventures, made discoveries, and then we come along and we say, well, we want to make new planets, new worlds, we want to freshen all of this up. And so we were trying to find ways to do that without destroying what's gone before.
Okay, well, although they see it as like a nice problem to have, I see a very easy solution, or at least I think it's easy. I mean, it might not be. I mean, I'm not the one doing the freaking programming, am I? But yeah, to get around this, I thought, the base computers that we put down before we start building the base. Well, as soon as you put down the base and you claim the area, perhaps there could be a sub-menu that pops up and says, would you like to add one of your favourite bases? And maybe each player can favourite, say, 3 to 5 of their favourite bases. Yeah, I like odd numbers. Yeah, so you choose you choose one of your favourite bases, and the first time that you choose to restore one of your favourite bases, you can do it completely for free. Yeah, it does not cost you a freaking dime. Heck yeah. So you can then, restore your base. Lovely jubbly. But yeah, after that though, if you want to restore it to another planet to have like 2 of the same base or whatever, maybe you have to pay 500 quicksilver to actually restore that base. So that stops people from making bases like with massive idiom collectors or something or whatever, and just putting idiom farms all over the frickin' verse. I mean, you're still going to have to find power sources for the darn things, and you may have to twiddle with stuff to get it to work right, but at least all the materials can be restored for like 500 quicksilver. That's kind of the price to stop you abusing the system. I think that will kind of work. I mean, they might want to look at that in a little bit more detail, but then at least if we're ever going to do a reset, I know that I'll be backing up my big K9 base, my robot dog base that Boyd helped me build. I would love to keep that, and there's a couple of other bases I'd like to keep too. Ones that would take me a few hours to rebuild or even days to rebuild are the ones that I'll be backing up, So yeah, that's my idea there. So almost like they use the featured Nexus base system up in the Nexus with the featured bases. So you can actually jump onto a basis in your creative save as well. So it'd be nice if you can actually make a base in creative mode and then go into normal mode and have it as a favorite there, so you can pull any of your creative bases into normal mode. I'd be using creative a lot more for base building then. So anyway, moving on to the next section. So here we go. Let's just fire up what Sean has to say on the next section, and then I'd interject and give you my ideas and thoughts on that piece. Execute the Monday, Mr. Exo. Execute. Get.
There will be some changes, probably, to that world that you're on. You may fall asleep on one planet and wake up on a slightly different one, right? But the fundamentals of your base, your progress, that's safe, right? And that was really important to us. No Man's Sky has become actually more and more popular as a game. More and more people play it every month, and it's very, very popular for people to build little communities and build kind of monuments and things with real meaning to them, and their discoveries. People have more value in them because they played 1,000 hours or whatever. So it created a real problem for us in just continuing to update the game. So this is one of the ways we're solving that. We aren't a level-based game where we just have one new level being added off one corridor or whatever. This is really kind of impactful things that change the gameplay. So it's things like weather systems, right? And they're localized, so you can have lightning and kind of gravity storms, you got volcanoes, but as well as that, the actual planets themselves. Technically, what's possible now kind of wasn't possible for us before. So you have really tall mountains. You have multiple kilometer tall mountains, chasms, deeper oceans, deeper caves, crazier terrain, things that we wanted people to have that feeling of freshness in the universe, right? Like for us to have that moment that I was talking about again of what we had 4 years ago, where I will be looking at screenshots for the first time in 4 years being like, oh, I didn't know that was possible, or oh, that's cool, What's really nice about these changes is seeing them affect gameplay. And there's a kind of an emergence of gameplay. So having the idea of the mixture of, oh, I'm on a volcano planet and volcanoes going off, and now this gravity storm's coming in, and how those two things combine, and the kind of positives of one and the negatives of another. How do I kind of change my gameplay to adapt to that? So for me, one of the nice things has been playing the game and seeing the way things interact with each other in ways we kind of weren't necessarily designing for, but seeing a little bit of an emergent gameplay from that. It was very important to us that it wasn't just aesthetic. Aesthetic is great in No Man's Sky because it changes, the exploration element, but aesthetic on its own, I don't know, is not the most interesting thing to me, right? I don't want it to just be, before it was green plants and now it's red plants, When we first showed off the game, which was about 4 years before it came out, we had sandworms in the game, and they weren't that fun. It sounds fun, right? Fundamentally, it works really well at a trailer, and it's a cool thing, and it's cool when you see it. But if you play the game for 100 hours and you've got your save, that you really care about, really annoying to be randomly killed by a sandworm, that just appears, right? I mean, the people who hunt for spice and dune or whatever, they know this pain, right? But I think now, and it is something that we've revisited a couple of times, we've found a way to make them, play well with the game, to signpost themselves well, and to kind of fit the environment around them so that it feels, hopefully, fun and in keeping with the rest of the game. We often have key things that we're doing that we know no one is asking for, but we feel are fundamentally important for the game. So like this time round, we've revisited the UI and changed it visually and also kind of tightened it up to make it flow nicer. People weren't generally asking for that, but I think it has a real impact on the game and fundamentally kind of helps how the game plays. You know, you spend a lot of time in and out of the UI. So for me, that adds a lot of freshness. Yeah, this is our kind of big yearly update, like we did Next and Beyond. This is a big one that a bunch of the team's been working on for a while. But yeah, we still have more things coming this year. We're all locked in our houses now. So what else can we do? Just play games.
So there's quite a lot to digest in that one, but I'm really liking the new weather effects and the weather systems, and I'm hoping that they bring into the iteration new ways to harness that sort of weather. So, you know, if there's an electric storm, maybe you've got pylons on your base that are going to bring in all the electricity and recharge your batteries, or if you're in like a windy place with tornadoes, perhaps you could have wind generators, that sort of thing, or a thermal heat converter for the volcanic planets. So there's other ways to power your bases inside of No Man's Sky. It's like your jetpack reacts differently on these on these planets, so maybe you could have some sort of power converter that takes harness of all the weather effects and just changes them into electricity. Because right now you can be looking for a magnetic hotspot and find it at the top of the mountain, and you just can't really put a base there, you know what I mean? So there we are. So that's my idea there for base building. Now moving on to the sandworm. I mean, what we've got now definitely isn't the same sort of sandworm as what we saw in the trailers. It's very freaking different. And in fact, in the trailers, you actually saw the sky worms that were in place. So a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, all they've done is took the sky worms that we've always had and changed them into sandworms. But if you look at the trailers, they had different sky worms back in the day and sort of ground snakes. So what we have was what we saw in the trailers was very different to what we have now. And to be honest, seeing them jumping through the sky in the way that we do, when we're quite used to seeing them under the oceans or flying on planet surfaces, it's not really new. It almost feels like a tick in the box exercise. It's like a holographic projection. You can't even shoot the dang thing or scan it. So what I would like to see, I mean, Sean Murray said that the old snake would come up and just kill you. Yeah. Well, why not have trigger events? So say if you're killing a load of fauna in a dense area, so you kill like 3 fauna in close proximity to one another, maybe the blood from the fauna or the mordite or whatever you want to call it attracts a sandworm, and even then you could have the screen rumble a bit before it actually appears. It doesn't always have to be a freaking giant sandworm. It could be almost like a giant sarlacc pit that spawns, or a giant octopus-like type creature, or any other giant sort of fauna. But yeah, sandworms would be freaking awesome on planets where sandworms would make sense, like sand planets that we don't got. I mean, yes, we've got the ones with cactuses all over, but we still don't have the planets like in the artwork that we saw for the release of Origins. Or if we do, I just haven't seen one. Yeah, no, I've not seen one. If you have seen one, you guys out there, please put a link in the comments if you've seen one of these sort of actual sand planets. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to go visit. But yeah, so there could be a giant mole freaking creature that bursts out the ground. Who knows? I mean, we have seen other giant fauna in the trailers, like the giant rhino smashing down trees. I'd like to see other giant fauna. It's like oceans. If they can make the oceans as deep as they have these chasms that we've got on some planets now, that'd be awesome. And when you travel to the bottom, perhaps there could be giant fauna down there. So under a certain depth that you travel, perhaps then that could spawn in another giant creature like a kraken or a giant whale-like creature. So yeah, giant fauna is a thing. You try and think of any sci-fi film that they've drawn inspiration from the 60s onwards that doesn't contain a giant fauna. I mean, for me, it's only Space Odyssey that doesn't. That's got monoliths and things and stuff. But a lot of the other sort of sci-fi that they've drawn inspiration from, giant fauna is very much a freaking selling point for those sort of books and those novels and those films from yesteryear. So yeah, I'd like to see a lot more done with giant fauna in the way of interaction. I'd like to kill a giant sandworm and maybe harvest its bones and things like that. Why not? Yeah. So that'd be awesome. So anyway, that's all my ideas based around the interview that Sean Murray done with IGN, and given a few sort of ideas of my own into the mix. But if you've got ideas, you guys out there, please chuck them in the comments. It'd be awesome to read them. I am planning on sending this over to the old Zendesk so Hello Games can take a closer look and inspection. Anyway, until next time, people, you've been freaking ace. Yeah, see you later. Goodbye, or goodbye. Well, thank you very much for watching this video, and if you like what you see, please hit a like or a subscribe. And yeah, or you can support my channel through Patreon. Here are all my Patreon backers. Thanking you, Patreon. And I also have YouTube membership. If you want to sign over to YouTube membership, check out my video links in my video description. I also have merch. Grab yourself a fine and dandy pair of socks, a mug or a t-shirt over my merch store. Or I also have Atlas cards that I sometimes have on my eBay store. Check out my video description. So that is the end. Thank you for watching, and please hit a join or a subscribe, or just hit one of these tiles on this screen you see here now. Stay with Captain Steve that bit longer.